Okay, welcome back. As we start working on learning how to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators, one thing we need to know is how to find the least common multiple. And in order to find the least common multiple, we got to know what multiples are. And so if I went over to Google and looked up the definition for multiple, I can see that a number that can be divided by another number without a remainder is a multiple. Now, you've been doing this since you were in kindergarten. You used to skip count you learned how to skip count by twos, you learned how to skip count by fives, and you learned how to skip count by tens. All of those is exactly what you do to find multiples. And so when you were in kindergarten, you were typing. So let's say you were learning how to count by twos. And so you started off with twos. And I'm just going to make a little colon right here to kind of separate that two from what just say we're multiplying by two or skip counting by two. So in order to find the multiples of two, you went 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on. Those are multiples of 2. All of these are multiples of 2, and we can keep going on and on forever and ever and ever. You also learned in kindergarten how to count by fives. And so fives, okay, if we did that, we're 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on, and we could go forever and ever. And I think you guys went to like 100, if I remember correctly. Same with tens. We could count by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. All of those are what we do in order to find multiples, okay? So multiples are, like we said in the Google definition said, it's a number that can be divided by another number without a remainder. So when we skip count by these, 5 can be divided by 5 without a remainder. 10 can be divided by 5, 2. 15 can be divided by 5, 3. 20 can be divided by 5, 4. So multiples are basically your skip counting to get numbers that will allow you to be able to divide these without a remainder. Okay. So in order to find the least common multiples, it kind of helps if we know how to find multiples in general, okay? And so I got this little snippet from Smart Teachers. And in this particular example, it wants us to find the least common multiple of 3 and 4. And you're going to see least common multiple abbreviated to say LCM. That's just to help you from having to write least common multiple because no one's got time for that. All right. It's so much easier to just find the LCM and then keep moving forward. Okay. So in this particular example, we're going to find the least common multiple of 3 and 4. So the first thing we need to know are our multiples of 3. Okay. And so this is how we're going to skip count. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. I'm going to stop right there, even though there's more lines, okay? Then if we want to do the multiples of 4, okay? So 4, we skip counting by 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16. And if you get stuck, you can always stop and count on your fingers for a minute to help you get caught up. 20, and so on, okay? So let's look for common multiples. These are multiples that appear basically on both lists, okay? So I can see that 12 appears on both lists, okay? And as of right now, I would have to go farther out to get additional ones, but I know that 12 is a multiple that appears on both lists. If I wanted to keep going out just so I could see another multiple, I know that another multiple of 4 is 24. And another multiple of 3, 18, 21, 24. So that way I can see that there are more than just one multiple, okay? So 12 and 24 are both multiples. When we talk about the least common multiple, least being smallest, what is the smallest number that they both have in common? Basically, what's the smallest number that appears on both lists? And as you can see, 12 is the smallest number that appears on both lists. Okay? And that's all you really have to do to find least common multiple. You're finding the multiples of 3, you're finding the multiples of 4. In this particular example, And then you're looking at which number comes on both lists. Now, you could do this with 2 or 3 numbers, but finding the least common multiple will help you set up equivalent fractions, okay? So let me go back to this slide right here, and let me erase that real quick for us so we can kind of do another example, okay? All right, so let's do this one together, and then here in a minute, maybe you could pause it and figure out which, try to work ahead of me. Okay, so let's pretend we're going to find the least common multiple of 2 and 7. Okay, 2 and 7. So let's skip counting by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and I'm out of room, so I'm going to stop there and see what I've got. Okay, skip count by sevens. 7, 14. Oops, I see it already. Let's go ahead and do one more, though, just so you can see it. But I can see a number that appears on both lists. Can you find that number as well? Hopefully you saw that 14 appears on both lists. So the LCM is 14. Okay. All right, let's do a couple more examples of that real quick. So let's get a new blank sheet here, and let's try 4 and 12. If you'd like to pause this for a second and see if you can figure out, maybe on your whiteboard or on a scratch sheet of paper, how that would work. Okay, so I want to skip count, but I'm trying to find the LCM. Okay, so the least common multiple. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do my 4s. So 4, 8, 12, I already see it. It's going to be right there. Okay, starting with 12s, 12, 24, okay? And I can see that 12 is the smallest number that appears on both lists. So the LCM equals 12. All right, okay. Let's do one more example. This time I do want you to pause the video if you can and try and figure this out on your own. Let me get a new drawing here. All right, and let's do, I'd like for you to find the LCM of 4 and 5. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Some of you are going to be so good, you're going to see it right off the bat without even having to make a list. All right, so if you're back, you've figured this out. So let's go ahead and do our skip counts. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Okay, let's go ahead and do our 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Hopefully by this time you can find it. Okay, and I can see that 20 appears on both lists. So my LCM between 4 and 5 is 20. All right, if you can do this, this is going to set you up for our 4-square method when we add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. All right, good job. See you soon.